Je anilo premadano karma kacho.
Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Shri Bhaktivedanta Thakur ki jai. Prabhu Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Sri Krishna Gopinath Shyama Kundara Thakur Giri Govardhana ki jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sisters of the spiritual master are to be shown also equal worship and honor. So I'd like to remember them on this day because I feel very much indebted to them. Because we are aspiring devotees, it becomes so much helpful to have the association of our peers, our equals. And it would be a very lonely world if a guru had only disciples to be. We can appreciate Prabhupada's unique status in that he could exist so happily with us. And I think that we are certainly not in that category, and we require so much the mercy of our God brothers, God sisters, and whatever little offering I want to give them today is only a token offering, but it does not actually indicate my appreciation and love for them. And I've always felt that I cannot think of Prabhupada without Prabhupada's disciples. And I have a firm conviction that whatever advancement I make is by the mercy of Prabhupada, and that mercy very, very often comes through the auspices of my dear God brothers. Just give them some little token of my appreciation. Now, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki. Iskan Viviti Under Charge Shita Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki. Nama Charge Shita Haridas Thakur ki. Limjaga Hosi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sita Tekta Parsi Vyasa Digo Bhaktivedanta Sri Sri Radha Krishna Govina Shama Pandara Bhakti Digo Verdam ki. Vrindavan Dham ki. Bhakti Dham ki. Navadvidam ki. Unamai ki. Kasva Devi ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Tulsi Devi ki. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki. Sankirtan Yagna ki. Sri Vyasa Puja Mahotsava ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. All glories to the Son of God. All glories to the Son of God. All glories to the Son of God. Oh, praise This is verse 75 today. Someone told me it was 75 today. Sean? So we're going to do 75. Who wrote the 76 verse?
I did.
But the verse is 75. We'll do 75. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, entitled Instruction to Civilized Human Beings. Text number 75. Yam Nirloke Pata Uri Bhaka Yam Nirloke Bhaktabhurivaga Yuyam Niloke Bhaktabhurivaga Lokam Punana Lokam Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Munayo Bhiyanti Lokam Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Lokam Punana Munayo Bhiyanti That's a miracle. Yesham Krisham Avastiti Shakshat Bhutam Padam Brahma Manusya Lingam Bhutam Padam Brahma Manusya Lingam Yuyam Niloke Bhaktapurivaka Lokam Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Yesham Griham Avastiti Sakshat Yesham Griham Avastiti Sakshat Yesham Griham Avastiti Sakshat Buddham Padam Brahma Manusyanam Lingam Buddham Padam Brahma Manusya Lingam Yuyam Niloke Bhaktapurivaka Lokam Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Yesham Grihan Avastiti Sakshat Yesham Grihan Avastiti Sakshat Buddham Param Brahma Manusya Lingam Yuyam Niloke Bhaktapurivaka Lokam Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Shangrihang Avasatiti Sakshat Puram Brahma Manusya Lingam Niloke Bhaktapurivaka Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Sangriham Avasatiti Sakshat Param Nashtalingam Yamriloke Bhaktapurivaka Punana Munayo Bhiyanti Sangriham Avasatiti Sakshat Puram Brahma Manusya Lingam Ladies.
I have to go in 5 minutes to make a phone call to Bhaktivedanta Swami.
Yes, I know. Well, I'll just come towards you. I had given some offering to all of my members, so...
Oh, no.
No, I'll come. Actually, today is actually Vyasa today.
Embarrassing. I'm doing something for him, that's why I have to go. He knows all about it.
Yes. Perhaps they will also. We could very conveniently turn this celebration by just worshiping you. Today, that would be fulfilling Srila Vyasadev's desire, I think, and Prabhupada's desire.
That would be most inappropriate.
But said Krishna Consciousness is one big surprise after another. But said the Krishna Consciousness is not static, it's ecstatic. So we always are ready for something new. So we have chanted the Sanskrit. Now we will do word for word. Yum, all of you Pandavas. Nirloke, in this material world. Bhata, indeed. Puribhaga, extremely fortunate. Lokam, all the planets of the universe. Punanaha, who can purify? Munayaha, great saintly persons. Abhiyanti, come to visit. Just like ordinary persons. Yesham, of whom? Grihan, the house of the Pandavas. Avasati, resides. Iti, thus. Sakshat, directly. Godam, very confidential. Param, transcendental. Brahma, the Parabrahman. Krishna, Manusya Lingam, as if an ordinary human being. Translation and purport by the divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear Maharaj Yudhisthira, you Pandavas are so very fortunate in this world that many, many great saints who can purify all the planets of the universe come to your house just like ordinary visitors. Furthermore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is living confidentially with you in your house, just like your brother. You can repeat. My dear Maharaj Yudhishthira, you Pandavas are so very fortunate in this world that many great saints who can purify all the planets of the universe come to your house just like ordinary visitors. Furthermore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is living confidentially with you in your house, just like your brother. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is a statement exalting a Vaishnava. In human society, a Brahmana is the most respected person. A Brahmana is one who can understand Brahman, the impersonal Brahman. But hardly ever can one understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita as Param Brahma. As a Brahmana may be extremely fortunate in having achieved Brahma Jnana, but the Pandavas were so exalted that the Parabrahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was living in their house like an ordinary human being. The word Udibhaga indicates that the Pandavas were in still a higher position than brahmacharis and brahmanas. In the following verses, Narada Muni repeatedly glorifies the position of the Pandavas. This verse is very significant, and it is often referred to by authorities to illustrate the fortunate position of the Pandavas. It is, first of all, a very authoritative statement because it is spoken by the premier authority of the universe, the Deva Rishi, the sage amongst all the Devas, the demigods, Sri Narada Muni. So there can be no more authentic declaration than something which Narada Muni utters. And he openly declares here the special position of the Pandavas. That position became immediately clear at the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra. At Kurukshetra, there was an imbalance in the military formations. The side of the Kauravas was heavily favored and far outnumbered the Pandavas. Yet, as the days of Kurukshetra battle unfolded, it became increasingly clear that the Pandavas could not be defeated. And the sole reason for this is that they had Krishna on their side. This then is the special significance of the Pandavas, that they always have Krishna by their side. And this is the position of a pure devotee. He always has Krishna with him at every moment, not symbolically or figuratively, but factually. As Prabhupada himself explained to one reporter who would ask how Prabhupada wrote these books, Prabhupada told him, Krishna was sitting by my side, dictating to me. So, there are verses which describe how Krishna is always within the heart of his devotee, and the devotee is always within the heart of the Lord. And this is their special promise to each other. An unalloyed devotee promises Krishna that under all circumstances, no matter how difficult the test may be, I will never give up your lotus feet. We see that there will be many temptations which come. In the beginning, these may be of a more gross sort, but gradually the temptations become more and more subtle. For example, it is very difficult to give up the desire for prestige or distinction. So much so that people are even prepared to die in a certain way, at least if their memory, the memory of them will go on into the future. Some trace of their greatness will linger. Even people who are outright materialists at least believe that they can preserve something into the future through their traces of their behavior, activities, achievements. Or sometimes persons think, let me preserve myself through my children. I will bequeath whatever I have to them. People very much treasure honor. You remember the argument given by Vasudeva to Kamsa to stop him from killing Devaki was based on honor. What will people say of you in the future if you do this heinous act at this time? So very difficult to give up, honor. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was praying, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundari. He was talking about these three things. To have followers, to have the opposite sex attracted to one, and to have wealth. These things become obstructions. And therefore, Mahaprabhu said, I only want causeless devotional service to you, birth after birth. Now, we see the great yogis spend so much time meditating in order to achieve a vision of Paramatma. Gyanis try to cultivate knowledge of Brahman in order to achieve the impression of non-dual oneness with the Supreme. But the Pandavas, in their natural spirit of friendship and brotherhood with Krishna, enjoyed his intimate company as a family member. In Bhagavad Gita, we hear Arjuna, after accepting Krishna as Guru, in the second chapter, the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna changes. He says, now I am going to surrender unto you, and I accept you as my Guru. And then he begins, later on in the Gita, when he sees Krishna's actual position, by the grace of Krishna, he has it revealed to him that person who was like his family cousin brother is actually the Param Brahman. He says, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Brahman, Purusham Shashritam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vigu. He praises Krishna, you are Param Brahman. Very significant. The Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, they're all after this Brahman. And here we find Arjuna addressing Krishna as Parabrahman. And again, Narada Muni is referring to Krishna as Parabrahman. Very significant. Now, Avajananti Manmudha Manashintanamashatam Parabhavam Ajananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. Persons who are less intelligent cannot understand that Parabrahman is Krishna. They think that Parabrahman has become covered by Maya. And in this covered feature as Maya, this form of Krishna has been manifest. They do not accept that Krishna's form is Satchidananda Vigraha. Therefore they are operatis, mudhas. And they're rejected, Krishna says. And this is a big problem for most impersonalists, therefore, to study Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's not by chance that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu selected the Srimad Bhagavatam as the most important literature of authority. Because in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's personal position as the Bhagavan is explained. Not just as Bhagavan, but as Paramatma and Brahman also. And therefore we get that verse those who are intelligent see that there is no difference between Bhagavan, Brahman, and Paramatma. But those who are impersonalists cannot understand this. For them, they only want this oneness. But the Pandavas had no such interest. You will recall that when Krishna showed the universal form to Arjuna, Arjuna asked, let me see, once he became enlightened in the cognizant way, because we have to understand Arjuna's apparent perplexity is not illusion as we are under illusion. When Krishna enlightens Arjuna, we use the word enlightens Arjuna as if Arjuna was not enlightened. By the arrangement of Krishna, Arjuna was temporarily put in doubt or illusion. So when he became enlightened, he said, show me your forearm feature. He wanted to see his universal form, his forearm form. One by one, he saw it. And finally, Arjuna said, now I want to see that form, which the two-arm form. And when Krishna showed that two-arm form to Arjuna, he said, this form is most dear. This form is most difficult to see. Why is it most difficult to see? Because this form requires that Krishna give the maximum. Not the universal form, not even the forearm form. The forearm form and the universal form, Krishna can do very easily. Very easily. For Krishna to reveal his opulences, as he does in the 10th and 11th chapter, is nothing at all. He doesn't have to do it personally as Krishna. He's got representatives, demigods who can do everything on his behalf. He's got the material energy, Durga Devi, that can work on his behalf. He's even got Lord Narayan, many Narayans to do everything. But when he is approached by persons like Arjuna, that puts Krishna in great difficulty. Because then Krishna can't tap someone on the shoulder and say, take over. Then Krishna has to do it himself. And therefore Krishna said, this is the most dear, most special form. This is me. This is my original form. The original personality of Godhead. This is Krishna, Govinda, who spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So it is that Krishna that we are worshipping. It is that Krishna which Srila Prabhupada has established as the focal point for our movement and for the world to worship, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And persons like the Pandavas are our authorities because they have understood, have captured Krishna's lotus feet in their heart. Prabhupada always spoke so highly of the love of the Pandavas for Krishna, of the love of Kunti for Krishna, of the love of Bhishma for Krishna. All of these persons were able to make Krishna come to them. This is a very rare quality of the Lord. Krishna says that there's nothing that he won't do. He says that my pure devotee is so dear to me, he's even more dear to me than Lakshmi. He's even more dear to me than my very own self. No wonder it's difficult to be Krishna conscious. Every one of us experiences some difficulty in Krishna consciousness. Why is it so difficult? Will it ever become easy? But look at what you're trying to achieve. Just consider the difficult thing that you're trying to achieve. You're expecting the position of pure devotion to Krishna, in which Krishna says he becomes Bhaktivedanta. He becomes overwhelmed and in love with his devotee. He lives in the house of the Pandavas. Look, in the next verse we'll hear, he acts, Narada Muni says, Krishna is acting as your well-wisher, your friend, your cousin, your heart and soul, your worshipable director, and your spiritual master. He's everything. This is the position of the Pandava. Therefore, Narada Muni says, there is no one more fortunate than you. You've got Krishna living in your home. You remember when Arjuna finally surrenders, I didn't finish the thought that I had in my mind. He begs Krishna for forgiveness, saying, please excuse me that we were laying on the same couch together, and I may have spoken to you in such an informal tone, I may have offended you. Of course, it is not an offense. Now, if we say to Krishna in an informal way, if we speak to Krishna too intimately and familiarly, it is inappropriate because we don't have sufficient love to be able to speak in that way. If we speak in that way now, it becomes simply an imitation. Therefore, we have to learn the prayers of Brahma, the prayers of Narada, the prayers of Kunti, the prayers of Bhishma. These appropriate prayers will enable us to one day be able to appeal to Krishna. And Krishna hears. He says that he reciprocates. He reciprocates as we surrender unto him. So the Pandava's position then is especially glorified. Now we can also say, here we are 5,000 years ago, Vyasa speaking on behalf of Narada Muni about Krishna. 500 years ago, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in this world, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Vrindavan Das Thakur spoke in the same way. It is said that Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Veda Vyasa. He is not different. He is the same Veda Vyasa who has come to glorify now Krishna in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I think that all the devotees combined together are empowered by Srila Vyasa Dev, that 500 years after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada's activities have manifested themselves in this world. And we see no less confidentiality between Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as we saw in regard to the Pandavas with Krishna in their home. There can be no doubt that anyone that performs the Sankirtan Yajna as successfully as Srila Prabhupada has performed it is certainly the most confidential. All of these statements apply to Srila Prabhupada. Most confidential person. Prabhupada once said that the reason that this Krishna consciousness movement is so successful is because Krishna is within this movement. Prabhupada built a house, and he welcomed Krishna into that house. Therefore, I think it is very appropriate that all of these words can be spoken to Prabhupada. You are living with Krishna in this house which you have constructed, ISKCON. Krishna is your heart and soul. Krishna is your worshipable director. Krishna is your spiritual master. Krishna is your best friend. Krishna is your well-wisher, best well-wisher. Otherwise, how could Prabhupada perform what he did? It is no less of an achievement. If Arjuna was set against apparently insurmountable odds, can you say that the odds against Prabhupada were any less? I mean, at least Arjuna had 4 other brothers. No other brothers came with Prabhupada. They only said, good luck. They didn't come with him. They said, you go on your own. We'll watch at a safe distance. Prabhupada took the field. Single-handedly took the field with great determination, great courage. Why? Because he knew that Krishna was on the chariot. Krishna declares it very boldly, declare boldly, Arjuna, my devotee shall never be vanquished. Actually, insurmountable odds to come into New York City, to sail into Boston Harbor and come into New York City. A bastion of material society. 8 million materialists. 20 million materialists in the greater New York area. 250 million materialists all over this country. The whole world, purely materialistic. And one person up against them. If you understand Prabhupada's achievement, I find it very difficult to find any single person who has ever fought and conquered as Prabhupada did. I don't think there's any instance. When you read about Dhruva Maharaj dealing with the Yakshas, I still think that, these present day Yakshas are just as powerful. They've got their, internet going, they've got their sophisticated satellite systems going. Look at what they did in Iraq. They're very capable, Yakshas. And Prabhupada, every bit as powerful and successful as Dhruva Maharaj. And still more so, because no one had to tell him, take it easy. Yeah. Dhruva Maharaj had to be cooled down. Prabhupada was always eco-voiced. He didn't do it with one single arrow. That's the most wonderful thing, is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, fury was about to be unleashed on Jagai and Madhya, and Nityananda Prabhu reminded him, not this time. This is not the time for this type of thing. Now you just have to give mercy. Give them your association. Give them your mercy. This is for no astras, shastras. Prabhupada's astras are his shastras. His weapons are his scriptures. And those scriptures are more powerful than any weapon, because they can go where no weapon can even penetrate. They can go within subtle coverings of the false ego, the intelligence, the mind, penetrating deeply into the consciousness to where the soul is lying. And they can revive the dormant love of God within the spirit soul. Remember Prabhupada's last prayer. I want to die in the battlefield like a soldier. This is our founder Acharya. This is the mood of our founder Acharya. I want to die in the battlefield like a soldier. He was showing very significantly that the sadhana, the method of realizing God in this age, is the Sankirtan Yoga. Because he could have easily said, I want to die in Vrindavan, but he didn't say that. If you say that Prabhupada died in Vrindavan, I will agree and I will disagree. Because he was in Vrindavan, but what was he doing in Vrindavan? Final days. He was preaching, dictating Srimad Bhagavatam. He didn't withdraw into himself and simply begin to chant and leave us all behind. To the very end, giving Srimad Bhagavatam, giving transcendental knowledge, showing this is Sankirtan Yoga, and this gives you the highest perfection realization. This is our founder Acharya. This is the path that Prabhupada established for us to walk. So, we have got, so much work to do. When once Prabhupada was showing a slideshow, and a picture, a slide of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur came on the screen, and Prabhupada was giving some explanations, and one devotee called out that Bhaktivedanta Thakur preached throughout parts of India, but Prabhupada, you have preached throughout the world. And Prabhupada turned to that devotee and said, don't think that Bhaktivedanta Thakur could not deliver the whole universe. Don't think like that. He just left some of it so that we had something to do. So we should understand the same way. Don't think that Prabhupada could not have done everything, and he practically did do everything. He said, I have made the structure, but he has left something for us to do. That means to fill in the structure. Fill in the walls, fill in a little crack here and there, a little decoration, but still it's such a big structure that it will take us long time to complete Prabhupada's mission. The structure, the work is done. Now it's for us to teach people, to welcome them into this house, to make this house, Prabhupada said, furnish it. Make it commodious so that people will feel welcome to come in. And we have to become appropriate hosts. Because you may have a nice house, but why is it that it's not so nice to stay in a hotel? I mean, the furnishing is better than anybody's house. All the facilities are there. What's lacking? Personal touch. The warm, loving affection. That's the part, basically, really, if we come down, that we have to take care of. We have to become appropriate hosts, so that when people come into this house, which Srila Prabhupada built, they'll want to sit down and, take prasada, and take some rest, and decide to live here. Not that they'll say, well, that was nice, see you next lifetime. I mean, you should know how much effort these hotels make. There's one hotel in Hong Kong. What's the name of that hotel? Where's one of Hong Kong girls? Right here. Hey, what's the name of that hotel? The oldest hotel in Hong Kong. Peninsula. In the Peninsula Hotel on the Hong Kong Harbor, they have a policy that once you come and stay in that hotel, from then on, for the rest of your life, on your birthday, they send you a birthday card. You may never come back and stay at that hotel, but you will never, the rest of your life, stop getting a birthday card. That's just one of the services they perform. Do we do that? Some, but very rarely do we think about this. There's so much attached to finding a way to bring back their custom. So we have to be so attached. Prabhupada once said, it's with great difficulty that we make a single devotee. It's so easy to lose that devotee. You can lose a devotee very easily. We have to make so much effort. And who are the devotees? I think, in one sense, this depends upon our vision. If we have sufficient vision to see, you can practically see nearly everyone as devotee. It depends on our vision. Because everybody has some tendency for rendering service. And that service spirit is the beginning of Bhakti. Remember the example always of that Bowery bum that came in and brought the roll of toilet paper, walked into 26 2nd Avenue and put that roll of toilet paper in the toilet, turned around without a word and walked out. And more than likely, that bum is probably, some bright-faced Guru Cooley today. Because any service which is rendered to Krishna, even unconsciously, has so much value, so much effect. If we always stay in the safety of our home, the safety of our temples, there's no way people are going to be benefited. We have to go out and preach. If you feel unable to be a book distributor, then find another way to preach. If you can't do anything else, at least keep your sari on, or your dhoti on, and tilak on when you go shopping. At least do that. You can't even. I'll tell you, during Prabhupada's time, I don't remember practically anyone that didn't wear a dhoti or sari all the time. I mean, you had to have a job where you couldn't in order to have an excuse not to. what to speak of people coming in the temple room. Sometimes I see our men come in the temple room with their pants on. It just, and you could never, ever have done that in Prabhupada's time. You just couldn't. You didn't. There's no question of not being able to do it. You wouldn't. You couldn't conceive of doing it. It just wasn't done. There are temples in South India that are very strict. You can't go to temples unless you're in proper dress. So at least we can preach to that degree. At least we can not be ashamed of being devotees of Krishna. We can do a lot more than that. I think that we can do far, far more than that. So I will not carry on too much more. I'll stop here. And I think that it is time. We're pretty much on schedule. Myself and my godbrothers will take a little stop very quickly. We're not going to feed them too much because we don't want to take too long. We promise we're going to be in and out of the prasadam room 10 minutes. So you can all be waiting outside there with a kirtan. We'll come out in 10 minutes and we will take up our next activities. Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON ki, ISKCON Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki.